Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome to today's bonus upload. Before we jump into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. And yes, folks, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's bonus, shall we? Today's first encounter. This happened to me a very long time ago. I don't recall much of it. I recall very little of this because I was so young at the time. My family, however, seems to recall it very well. To this day, I still have a hard time getting any information out of them about it. Whenever movies like The Exorcist or Cujo come on, someone would always say something like, "Do you remember way back at the farmhouse when you were a kid?" Then they would look at each other and say something along the lines of, "Yeah, that was really weird." And it would always be left at that. Over the last few years, I've pressed my mother and uncle for as many details as I could get out of them. It's been like prying a dirty family secret out of them or something. When I was around 7 years old, I lived on a farmhouse with my mom, her boyfriend, and my uncle. We had chickens, rabbits, and an usual assortment of farm cats. We had a few acres of land out back and your old typical rickety barn. Our house was set back off a major road and had a decent amount of woods bordering the property with a major airport just up the street. We had this really strange dog creature that would hang around the property. I say dog creature because this thing was far too big and intelligent to be a stray dog. The dog was very big, as large as a Great Dane. It was black and had the upper body of a German Shepherd and the lower body of a Doberman Pinscher, and it had very pronounced red eyes. I am told that it also had a very musky scent to it. I'm not saying it was a werewolf or a dogman, but it was very werewolf-like. The dog would frequently stalk the edge of the woods on our property in the day, and it seemed to have no fear. My uncle would yell out at it or throw things towards it to try to scare it off, but it would just simply rear up on its hind legs like a ram and charge at you for a short distance. We would frequently find dead chickens or rabbits after thunderstorms. We knew it was the dog thing because it would leave huge footprints in the mud and claw marks on the window ledges. Sometimes we would find the screens ripped from our screen doors and windows. It would never outright attack us, but it did seem to enjoy taunting us and harassing us. Now, this is where the story takes a strange turn, and I do not recall any of this, though my family swears by it. One summer night, my mom had left the window open in my bedroom at night so I could sleep. She was on her way to the bathroom and passed by my room and heard me talking to someone. She said she got pissed because it was way after my bedtime and figured I was just playing. She said when she opened my bedroom door to tell me to cut it out and go to sleep, when she opened the door, she saw me standing in my bed and I had apparently wet my PJs. I was talking towards the window. I wasn't screaming or freaking out, but seemed to be transfixed and talking in a low voice towards the window. She said I didn't even pay attention to her coming into the room or when the lights came on. When she looked towards the window, the dog had its two front paws pushed through the screen and was looking through the window at us, making a low growl. Its red eyes glared from the light of the room. Note, the windows of this house were about 5 feet from the ground, so that might give you an idea of its size. She immediately freaked out and said she threw a beer bottle at it to scare it off. She said she closed the window and closed the blinds. My mom told me that for about a week after, I acted very strange. Like the way the kid acted in the movie The Shining. I would say things like, "We don't want you here. Our ghosts are food." Or, "God thinks you're bad." The house cats would freak out whenever I was in the room. If anyone tried to pick one of the cats up, they would attack anyone who came close to them. For some reason, I would take sewing needles or anything sharp I could find and pick my fingers till they bled, then finger paint all over the walls with blood. The house also had a strong septic tank smell to it for a few days. Lights would burn out and pop and weird things would just happen. Understandably, my mom and my uncle were really freaked out. My mom would just get mad at me and yell at me to stop acting so weird and talk normal. Anyway, about a week or two passed. My uncle was out back working on his truck when he saw the dog out by the edge of the woods making its way towards the rabbit pen. At this point, he was tired of dealing with it and went into the house and got his .22. Apparently, he had fired at it and hit it in the rear. The dog turned and ran into the woods. We didn't see it anymore after that. More or less, everything cleared up, and we didn't have any more weird smells. The cats relaxed, and I started being a normal 7-year-old kid again. For a long time, I didn't take too much of this serious. My mom was a child of the 60s and did more than her fair share of partying. I always just figured she had smoked something or maybe drank a bit too much. The dog could have just been a dog. The house was old, so it might have had some bad electrical, and I might have just been a weird kid reacting to my mom's partying. But over the years, when I asked other family members, they would all vouch and say, yes, something was very weird going on with you. There was a strange dog out in those woods. My aunt and grandparents had all spoken in some way or another about it. My uncle would always make jokes about it. I didn't behave, the dog in the woods would come and get me. The only thing I recall was the weird dog in the window or out in the field. I always recall its eyes. You could see its eyes out in the woods, sometimes at night. I have bad dreams about it from time to time, and this is what prompted me to really find out what it was. When I asked my mom about it over the holidays, her response was, "Why do you want to think about that? And how do you remember anything about that anyway?" For a size comparison, not a detailed look comparison, but size, Google search a Great Dane named Gibson. That's roughly how big it was on all fours. And that's my story, and I'm going to stick to it. It happened so long ago, I'm not sure if anyone else reported it. I was 7 when it happened. I hardly remember much of it except seeing the dog out in the field and my mom always rushing me into the house. I'm 39 years old, so that gives you an idea of how long ago it was. I was going to try to get more details from my mom, but she passed away over a year ago, so I was never able to ask her more about it. The area that it happened in is now changed. It's actually right down the road from where I live now. A car rental business sits on the spot where the old farmhouse was, and what was the field out back is now a shipping center. Very little of the area is the same anymore. As for what I think, I can't honestly say one way or another. If I had to guess, I would say it was just a big wild dog, but for the fact of the possession, for lack of a better term, that I was told happened to me, I would have no idea what to think of that. I recall nothing about me being weird or any of it. When I look at the story as told to me, it has a very strong aspect of both paranormal and cryptid, but, like I said, I recall very little of it. Today's second encounter. A former Texas pizza delivery man whose encounter occurred on July 20th, 2012. I'm going to state right away that my sighting has terrorized me, to say the least. When I was a small child, I watched The American Werewolf in London by myself, and I've been mortally afraid of werewolves since. My sighting was on the 20th of July, 2012. It was a Friday night. I was 19 at the time, and didn't have many responsibilities other than delivering pizza part-time, so naturally, being a teenager, I was out with friends at a house party in Old Caddy, a suburb west of Houston, Texas. My friends and I experimented with both marijuana and alcohol, but we were both all responsible, making sure one of us stayed sober enough to be the designated driver. That particular night, it was my turn to stay sober. My friend B had gotten well past drunk, and once he started to behave recklessly, I decided it was time to leave the party and take him home. He didn't want me to take him home, so instead he asked me to drive him to one of his friends' house that I'm not really familiar with. This friend, who I only remember as Joey, lived on the far west outskirts of Caddy, close to a town called Brookshire. I took Morton Road to get there, with the driver and passenger windows down so B could get some fresh air. The street is one turn north of Morton, and while I don't remember the name of the street, I do remember how to get there. My sense of direction is fairly superior. I've delivered pizzas all throughout Caddy and have since become a local truck driver in Houston. The road had 3 to 4 houses on the eastern side, and the west side was a fairly large forested area, maybe 40 or so acres, and dead ends just past the last house. I had noticed the moon was full before I even went out that night. I got to Joey's house, the second house on the right, and parked my car on the left side of the road closest to the trees. I helped B get out of my car and walked him to the porch. Joey came out and thanked me for dropping him off, and we said goodbye. I decided to smoke a cigarette before I left the road. At that time, I shared my car with my dad, and his number one rule was not to smoke in that car. After lighting my cigarette, it didn't take long to notice that the road was eerily silent. I assume I didn't notice before, as I was helping my noisy drunk friend get inside the house. Maybe 3 drags of my cigarette, I heard heavy footsteps going across the gravel, maybe 100 feet in front of me. I was alarmed at the sound they made, similar to the sound of pulling something metal against concrete. As I stated, my fears have always been of werewolves. Here I am, alone, standing in a dark road under a full moon, and I hear something big walking too close for comfort in front of me. I didn't hesitate to throw down my cigarette and get into the car. I told myself as I was getting in that I wasn't going to turn my headlights on so I wouldn't have to see what was in front of me, and simply reverse my way back onto Morton Street and get the hell out of there. Unfortunately for me, my car had automatic lights that turned on as soon as I started the car, a fact that I was aware of but in my panic forgot. Immediately in front of me, about 100 feet, as I had to guess, was a 6 to 7 foot beast on 2 legs. It was covered in black fur, with a body of a gym-addicted man and a head of what I guess similar to a German Shepherd or a black wolf. It had human-like feet covered in dark fur as well, with large claws sticking out about 2 inches. And it held its left hand out the same way a human would, reaching for something in front of him or her. I noticed that the fingers ended in large claws as well. While this was enough to cause my jaw to drop, what got me the most was it was wearing torn blue jeans that seemed too tight and unnaturally torn, and an open flannel blue shirt that was ripped at its bulky shoulders. It looked my way when the lights revealed it and glared at me with narrowed yellow eyes baring its large fangs. My windows were still down and I hadn't touched my radio, so I had no trouble hearing the loud growl it let out. It then turned its head to the forest and dropped on all fours, and ran out of my sight into the trees. All this took place in about 20 seconds, but it felt like hours. At this point, I literally had tears in my eyes, but didn't hesitate for 1 second longer to shove my car in reverse and put the gas pedal to the metal. I heard a loud growling and grunting as I was leaving. I reversed onto Morton Road and went up 80-90 miles an hour down the streets leading back to Caddy, and didn't slow down till I was on Interstate 10. While still on Morton Road, I kept my eyes in front of me and sobbed the whole time because I'd never been so scared in my life. I can swear that the look I got from this creature was communicating to me that I had no business seeing him and he wanted me gone. The look reminded me of criminals on TV being caught in their wrongdoings and wanting to cause harm to those who have witnessed them. I got home, ran inside, and called my Scottish Terrier into my room and didn't sleep until the sun was up. To this day, I've never had the desire nor the nerve to go back on that part of Morton Road. I obsessed over the idea that I had seen a werewolf and researched werewolf sightings on Google and was intrigued by the Beast of Bray Road sightings and everything else that had come up. I was disappointed to see that nothing I found on the web was precisely what I had seen, while the beasts others have encountered seemed similar. None were spotted wearing clothes. I told my mother and father what I had seen, and while my mother could tell I was being genuine, my father was more interested in me driving that far home without letting him know, so I stopped talking about it. Of the 7 people outside of my family, I told only my wife-to-be and my friend Mike seemed to believe me. Most laughed and asked stupid questions, like, "Did you ask the werewolf if he got the vampires yet?" and similar things to that. I also never told the friend that I dropped off there that night what I saw. In fact, I didn't see him again for 2 years until accidentally bumping into him at a gas station in South Caddy. I'm 23, a father of 2 daughters, and getting married in a couple of months. Everything in this story is 100% true. Well, there you have it, folks. Today's bonus. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is your support, after all, that keeps the channel growing and going. And honestly, what gives people a chance and a place to share their experiences and theories judgment-free. Thank you. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, friends. These creatures are real. They are out there and dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for answers, and God bless.